Over the course of the last 3 lessons, we've seen 4 ages of quantum theory. The first age of quantum mechanics might be thought of as the age of the philosopher-scientist. That was a time when Heisenberg, Schrödinger, and Bohr, others, began to take Einstein's philosophically inflected ideas about physics, that we should base our concepts on things that were observable, and push them forward in fascinating ways. It led to huge debates. Heisenberg saw Schrödinger as a throwback to an earlier time, with Schrödinger's commitment to forming an intuitive and visualizable quantum physics, to make waves the basis for the understanding of the new quantum world. Schrödinger returned the favor and found Heisenberg's no-intuition physics based on observables and quantum jumps and unvisualizable arrays of numbers to be repellent and avoiding of what was really interesting about physics and that gave us the intuitive possibilities of advancing our real and deep understanding. When Niels Bohr helped put together these 2 young physicists' visions of what physics should be like, it came together in the Copenhagen interpretation. And by 1927-28, it seemed that by pushing on questions of philosophy, mathematics, physics, measurement, that this group of physicists had brought quantum mechanics into a full and complete form. Einstein never accepted that quantum mechanics was complete. And he continued in a long battle that really went on for decades with Niels Bohr. He really tried to open up that box again, to say, quantum mechanics may be correct in its predictions. It's a wonderful and great triumph of human thought, experiment, and research, but it wasn't complete, that there was some way of getting deeper into the nature of matter that would describe matter locally without this spooky connection between particles that were entangled one with the other, even across the solar system. The second age of quantum mechanics could be thought of as issuing from World War II. The triumph of the American physicists in building the atomic bomb was one in which quantum mechanics had been used in an understanding of nuclear physics. Quantum ideas and physics more generally had been used in a whole array of new devices. And the physicists emerged with a huge confidence in America about what they could calculate, where the pre-war generation would stop at a first-order calculation. After the war, there was no fear in covering pages and pages with elaborate calculations to be able to do what one wanted to do. There was a sense that philosophy was at best a luxury, at worst really a fundamental impediment to the advance of the pragmatic understanding of the world around us. So as the Manhattan Project physicists, the senior ones, the younger ones in their mid-20s, came out of the war, they thought they could do anything. They could calculate anything. They could build new precision devices. They could explore the outer universe or the inner aspects of nature. And they could do it by calculating and building, not by asking fundamental questions. That pragmatic orientation really saturated the feeling of what it was to be a physicist in the late 1940s, 50s, and early 60s. But things began to change in what one might call the third age of quantum mechanics. And that's the group of somewhat counterculturally organized physicists that sought to find a new way of bringing philosophical or foundational questions back into physics. That was the basis of the discussion that I had with David Kaiser, and that work of the fundamental physics group really set the stage for making Einstein's spooky connection, the entangled states of matter, into a fundamental object of inquiry. And all sorts of new things got proved during that time. The inability to clone or make an identical quantum copy, and the exploration of new applications that might be imagined for these quantum entangled systems. But now, as we saw with the discussion and the laboratory of Misha Lukin and this new generation of physicists scattered across the world, there's a sense that this fundamental aspect of quantum mechanics, the entangled nature of things, really was part of not only an experimentally accessible system, but of a technologically accessible system. And just as relativity had afforded the possibility in the 1960s and 70s of being applied in general relativity to very technological applications, now it seems as if computers and cryptography, even quantum money, become something that's imaginable, if not entirely realized. And with those four ages, from a philosopher-scientist to a pragmatic scientist to a countercultural scientist to the age of quantum technologists, of quantum engineers, we've seen quantum mechanics move across many different domains. And Einstein's objections, his interest, his contributions to quantum mechanics have been both fundamental to the creation of this field of quantum mechanics and also a critic of the idea of quantum mechanics as complete. What we've seen is that Einstein's objections really now seem to have been destroyed, and a new age of physics seems to have opened up in which the hope for a local description of matter is simply not in the cards. What we'll turn to next is outside of quantum mechanics, nuclear weapons, relativities in a certain sense, but connected to them. And that is, I want to turn finally to Einstein's views about unification in politics, about his views about unification in religion, his hopes for a cosmic religiosity, one that would focus on the underlying order of nature, not necessarily on the doctrinal separations and anthropomorphic notions of a God that might resemble us. It was Einstein's culture in a certain wider sense, as Einstein thought about, rather deeply about, the nature of discrimination, genocide, and God.